Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Discover Madrid. My name is Jim Jackson, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing for Enterprise Group at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And I am absolutely thrilled for today's discussion because you're going to hear from some amazing customers talking about their stories around digital transformation. Our session, you're going to see us stay very true to this session because it's about hearing from customers in terms of the insights that they've learned as they have gone on their digital transformation journey. So it's going to be a very engaging discussion today. You're going to get insights, you're going to get knowledge in terms of the learnings, the experiences, the challenges, and the opportunities that they're seeing as they have gone on their digital transformation journey. I said you're going to hear from some amazing customers. We have customers from Nokia, from ABB, from IKEA, and DreamWorks today, and they're going to share their insights, their knowledge of the journeys that they're on. Now, over the last couple of years, we have had a chance to engage with many of you as well as many of your colleagues outside of this room, and there's some common questions that have come up. So what I'm going to do is use those to start the dialogue, to tee up some of the questions with the panel, but get your questions ready because as we go through this, we will be taking questions from the audience. So you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions of the panelists. And really, at the end of this session, what we hope that you walk away with is learnings, insights, knowledge that you can transfer to your digital transformation journey. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I'd like to introduce our amazing panel. And I'll start with Anthony Barclay. Anthony is the VP of Video Product Management and Business Development at Nokia. Anthony, thank you. Welcome. Alex E. Alex is the Head of Operations and Shared Services at IKEA. Welcome, Alex. Kate Swanborg. Kate is the SVP of Technology Communications and Strategic Alliances at DreamWorks Animation. Kate, welcome. And Ian Murdoch, who is the Global Head of Application Development and Maintenance at ABB. Ian, welcome. All right, so what I want to do now is just to ask each of the panelists to give a very short update on your company, just to set a little context for you, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the digital transformation journeys that they're on. Cool. So Anthony, over to you.
Thanks, Jim. So good morning, everyone. I'm Anthony Barclay. I'm from Nokia's IP video division. At Nokia, we're focused very much on what we can do for video content. We're about how we can empower everyone to have a better video experience. And by that, I mean we're enabling our customers to build smarter, more flexible video networks to enable them to adapt, personalize, and most importantly, monetize the content that travels across their networks today.
Excellent. Alex.
Hi, morning, everyone. I'm Alex E. So at IKEA, we have the vision of creating a better everyday life for many people. And what we're seeing now is that over the 75 years of IKEA history, we are still at the very beginning of our journey. I hope we have a lot of IKEA lovers there in the crowd. Yes, thank you. And what is important for us is how can we reach out to even more customers, be more accessible for many customers, understanding them more, helping the customers more, lowering our prices so we can reach out to an even bigger audience. So that's what we're heading towards.
Excellent. Kate.
So at DreamWorks Animation, we're storytellers. We want to tell the most amazing stories with the most visually rich imagery and characters that the world has ever seen. What's interesting about our films is that while they might be gorgeous and funny, they're also tremendous technological achievements. To give a sense, our movies are, let's say, an hour and a half long. They run at 24 frames a second. That's 130,000 frames. Each one of those will go through 12 unique digital processes before it's finished. Typically, by the time we're done making one of our films, we've crafted 500 million digital files using 80 million computational hours to render the images. And so every time that we achieve one of our films, it's an achievement in creativity, but also in technological innovation.
Excellent. Ian.
Thank you, Jim. ABB is a leader in technology for industrial automation and power. We have a beautiful picture of Yumi here. We're famous for our robots, painting faces of fashion models, directing orchestras, but of course they're also in manufacturing environments, in utilities, in transportation, and food and beverage industries.
Excellent. So Alex, let's start with you. So IKEA is becoming a destination place. Food, it's a great experience. You get a chance to, obviously see have the opportunity to buy lots of different things, but you're really on a journey to become the world's leading multi-channel home furnishings retailer. So talk about digital transformation and how that plays a key role in that goal.
All right. So I think we have been fairly successful in putting out huge stores in the potato fields, as we call it. No one is out there. We will be the first to reach out. We kind of make our customers walk through a labyrinth in the store, hopefully buying more things that you actually intended as well. And that has been a very successful recipe. But with the change in the world, with the disruption that we see, this will not carry on for the next 75 years for IKEA. So there's a lot of initiatives ongoing around digital transformation. How do we combine both the online experience and the offline experience? How can we reach out to even more customers when the demographics of people have changed? We have people that are more city dwellers. The buying behavior of consumers have changed and do not want to do a lot of things themselves anymore. So we understood that. So what is happening in the multi-channel transformation program? We are establishing the capability to deliver goods to our customers. We are offering services that's giving our customers the choice that you can click and collect. You can ask IKEA to pick up the furniture they want and also deliver and assemble as a complete package, end-to-end service. And that's where the digital transformation comes in, because it is both the online experience. How do we blend that online information and bring that information when our customers are on site in the store? So it's quite a massive journey for us.
I've actually spent a lot of time on your stores looking around, and obviously bought a lot more because of that whole process, in terms of the length and everything going through the store. It's really an incredible experience. So thanks for that. So Kate, let me come to you with the next question. So we all love the characters that DreamWorks Animation creates. How has the transformation in the world of content creation shifted? How are you thinking about that today, and how is digital playing a role in that?
Well, digital transformation, it continues to be critical for us. It's interesting, we sort of think of transformation as a lifestyle. It's not something you do once, it's something that you have to prepare to always be doing in today's market space. And for us, with our products, we've got a circumstance where creativity, inspiration, intuition, they're critical. Everybody can see that. That's about the characters in the films. But frankly, it's also critical that we're efficient, that we're productive, that we're profitable. And that's really where we look for the promise of digital transformation to make a difference in our business. We're looking for high-end technological solutions on the cutting edge of innovation to allow our artists to have the creative time they need, our producers, our filmmakers, to be able to look into new ideas and new creative aspects, while the digital transformation is actually allowing us to have the efficiency, productivity, and profitability we want. And that's where, frankly, I think that digital transformation for us is a world that takes our IT organization from gatekeepers of no, I'm sorry, we don't have the resources, or we can't do that until next month, to a world where our IT organization is always able to say yes. That doesn't mean you say yes to every idea. What that means is that your technological organization is in a position to say yes to any idea the business thinks is a good creative idea, a good product idea, and good for the bottom line.
So pivot from a cost center to a business driver.
That's it.
All right, Anthony, let's come to you. So we live in a connected, impatient world, and whether we're at home or on the go, we expect stuff right now, immediately. Talk about content and consumer expectations and how that has shifted Nokia's video strategy.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I think we're really at the beginning stages of the digital transformation in the content industry. It's, for me, a really, really exciting time, because what we see is the fact that the world is rapidly changing. We've seen over the last few years the number of screens that you get exposed to today. It's not just your phone, it's your tablet. In Nokia, we believe in the future that actually any surface will become a screen. So we'll be surrounded by content wherever we go. driverless cars, your windscreen will become a screen displaying you content. And for us, that digital transformation will fundamentally change how we approach and consume content. And what we're doing as part of digital transformation is helping operators understand, how do I get that content successfully to such a large audience? We're so used to being able to scale networks, to scale solutions, to have many, many people watching the same thing at the same time. It might be Monday Night Football, it might be a Real Madrid game, for example. But the peak that's challenging the content industry today isn't everybody watching the same thing at the same time. It's what happens at the end of those games, when everybody says, actually, I want to go back and watch those goals again. I want to go back and watch those key moments again. Suddenly, you're dramatically transforming the scale you're faced with, where you had one stream consumed by many at the same time, to now having maybe 1 million unique streams as everybody jumps around individually to consume their individual content. And that really changes how we're challenging our networks to be built, how we can enable people to maintain the quality of experience. Because the key thing with video is you can't have a bad experience. We all know from a few years ago that we had buffering challenges when you watch certain things online. It wasn't very much the primary consumption point. Whereas now, that IP consumption, Jim, as you said, where we want everything wherever we are, whatever network we're on, means the fact that we expect that quality of experience to exist no matter how we connect. And so we must help empower our customers to take charge of that quality of experience and actually really deliver that broadcast level experience we're all used to on our big TV on any device, regardless of wherever I am.
Yeah, especially the next generation expects that experience, right? That's what they have come accustomed to, and that is their full expectation. So Ian, more and more we're moving to a world where everything learns, AI, machine learning, right? We're seeing all of this powerful capability. And this is becoming especially true in the manufacturing industry as it continues to digitally transform. How is ABB creating value in the digital manufacturing era? Talk a little bit about that.
So I can actually relate to what Kate was saying, surprisingly, despite the crass difference in the products that we sell, in that it's all about the bottom line, of course, in a manufacturing environment, and about enabling the creativity for your artists. For us, it is enabling the workers in a safe environment on the shop floor, and also our engineers dropping in new designs onto the shop floor ever faster, and enabling their creativity and their product designs in that. So when we think about the 3 dimensions of productivity in its classical sense, how can we get more out of the machines that we operate, get more uptime with preventive maintenance, using machine learning algorithms to observe what the tools are doing, to safety, to make sure employees are appropriately trained when they enter certain dangerous work areas, so we can track the employees as they move through the plant. Or we have augmented reality goggles that make sure nobody gets electrocuted when they're working with ultra-high voltage, for instance. And increasingly, we're turning our thoughts to the customer connection. The customers are interested in how we manufacture. We're not in a business of mass production for many parts of our business, but really bespoke products. We would make one every few years, and the customer is deeply involved in the whole engineering process. And to be able to engage with them and show them the progress, and to show them not just the design phase, but also the build phase. So as their product comes into being over many, many days, they can participate and see where we're at. They can see quality control statuses. They can actually get the quality control results rather than just the as-designed tolerance levels. We would like our customers to be able to see specific results from a test that we ran during the production cycle. And therefore, we're engaging in a more meaningful relationship with the customer as they become part of our value-creating process.
Excellent. So let's stay with Ian here for a second. So people expect about half of IoT data to be processed at the edge. I think IDC says 43% by 2020. Gartner's saying 70% plus by 2022. So amazing amount of activity happening at the edge, whether it's in the factory floor, refineries. The edge is really becoming extensive out there. So how are these insights creating new value for ABB? How are you guys thinking about that? And how are you helping your customers get there? And talk a little bit about the role that edge compute plays in that.
we had a very real example of this summer. As we were moving to faster and faster engineering cycles, we started to see a greater mix on our production line. So we would produce motors, electric motors, and we would drop in a different design, and pretty much every tray that moves through the factory would be a different design. And you could specify what color you would like. And that's great for the customer as they get their own branding and think an OEM environment. That's brilliant. However, if every motor is different, that means we needed to decide during production which rotor, which stator would fit together in which casing, and how do these different flows in the plant come together for final assembly. And being able to process each individual component through the plant and bring all that data together all the way to the final last point, half an hour or so before we start painting, where the customer can change the color if they wanted to, and some do, then is a huge compute load. And you're not going to move all that data all the time back to a central place for processing.
Yeah.
Instead, what we want is the product carrying its identity through the production process, and its component carry an identity, and they come together in the sub-assemblies and assembly floors. And that is really machine-to-machine communication and decision-making based on external factors from either engineering or the customer themselves, where we really can't process all that data fast enough. Yeah. In a cloud environment. And it also isn't necessarily a new insight that we would want to use in a cloud environment. It's something that we require in our execution of manufacturing. Therefore, the decision needs to be taken there, but after it's taken, we don't necessarily need to store that for posterity.
Right. Excellent. So, Kate, you talked about DreamWorks is really about creative storytelling. How do you balance the need to enable that creative storytelling and that innovation with speed, right? To be able to get your films out to the market in the timelines that you have to hit. And what role does technology? What role has technology and digital played in that?
Well, it's so important to recognize that just like any business, we are focused on things like time to market. The hard part is that we're so creative in the nature of the creation of our product that there are certain aspects of our business that we don't want to put a timeline to.
Right.
So we don't really want to put a timeline or a constraint on our artists and our filmmakers, forcing them to be funny on Monday, because that's when we need something done. Therefore, what we really look for is innovation in the technological space to give us that speed.
Yep.
The key is that if you're constantly being asked to innovate technologically in order to give the extra time to your product development, then technologically you need to be in a place where you know where the business is headed.
Yes.
So one of the things that we've done in the last number of years is that our IT organization actually has a seat at the strategy planning table for our business, with our CEO, our president, our producers, sitting down looking over both the short-term and the long-term business strategy plannings. IT has moved from the world of being a service enabler to being a core strategic partner in where we're taking innovation, and that actually allows us to focus on longer term innovation projects, knowing that we're going to be in step with where the business is headed.
Awesome, excellent. Okay, so Anthony, so today, we talked about how consumers really expect that seamless broadcast quality experience. How is Nokia enabling content providers to make this digital transformation successfully? Talk a little bit about that, how you're enabling that and the role you're playing there.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. I think, as I mentioned before, the quality of experience for video is really critical. That you need to make sure everybody's having a fantastic experience. And that can be really, really challenging. With those use cases of huge single events, at the weekend, where you'll have a lot of people tuning on all their connected devices, you suddenly see these huge peaks in the network that happen for a few hours at certain points in the week. And that can be really, really challenging for how providers of content are trying to deliver that. How do I make sure that for that those few hours when it's an X Factor or it's Monday Night Football or it's everybody suddenly watching on their connected devices because it's a 2 a.m. in the morning event, how do I make sure I can really flexibly scale my network and assure the quality at that point? And that was a real challenge that we saw in the industry, as to traditional networks would mean I need to overbuild for that point, I need to really put significant upfront investment to get all that peak capacity in, and I need to have it sat there just for those few hours that it's available. And what we did together with the teams in HPE and the financial services teams is put together a proposition that allows us to really create a flexible approach to solving that problems. You know, if you're going to enable content providers to really go to market, what we've got to do is build solutions that fit with how the consumption's happening. So what we're doing is enabling our customers to have a flexible approach to be able to increase their capacity for those ongoing peak points, but not pay the penalty that they have to running that significantly over time. So what we're able to do is to give people that really flexible approach to solving that problem, remove that challenge of that upfront investment that today can be a blocker for entry to this market, and give people the flexibility. And the more and more we see people going direct to consumer, I mean, there's been recent announcements very clearly in the press from people like Disney where they want to engage directly with their consumers. The need to provide a flexible network that can adapt to all those needs of those consumers is something that we see as really, really important. And for us, the partnership we've been working with HP and the financial services team with flexible capacity has really enabled us to solve that problem for those operators.
And talk a little bit maybe about how flexible capacity has enabled you to do that, the capability it's brought.
So one of the things that flexible capacity has done is really enabled us to have a business model where they're not having to invest in a lot of upfront hardware. What we're doing is enabling them to add on and switch on additional machines as those peak capacity grows, so bringing that capacity online, but then shutting it back down again when it's not needed. So it gives operators the fact that their costs are very much following the flow of their traffic. So when the networks are busy and there's lots of traffic, the capacity is there, but when it's not, the capacity is reduced. So it gives the ability for the operator's business model to follow their traffic flows.
Yep.
Otherwise, that upfront investment could be a real pain point to hit that real peak, because that peak will happen on day one the minute you start offering content.
So pay for what you're using, able to flex, as you see the flex in the business. So Alex, you talked a lot about the customer experience is central to digital transformation, but yet a lot of IKEA's revenue does come from the stores, right? So how are you kind of balancing the physical and the digital environments, and how are you translating insights that you get from all the people going to your stores, and how are you kind of translating and monetizing that?
All right. So it is right that most of our revenue today is still coming from our brick and mortar stores.
Yep.
What we want to do is also moving away from the potato fields approach, as I mentioned before. We have a concept store that we're trying out in the city of Madrid as we speak. So if you have the chance, visit that. It's a totally different experience. It's a very small store in the middle of the city to try to attract customers and help our customers understand what is the range, what are the things that you can buy, and provide a much more personalized experience. And with that, we have to provide tools that enable self-service. We provide much better user-intuitive tools for customers to be able to design the wardrobe without being a furniture expert. You just tell us what are your needs, what are your preferences, and then voila, you have an example of how your wardrobe could look like in full size in front of you. So these are very concrete examples how we can enable a better experience for that. Then having said that, of course, we still expect quite a huge part of the revenue stream coming from online as well. And to do that, that also means that on IT systems, it's more than ever that it has to be resilient and reliable. So an hour of downtime is a huge impact compared to an hour in the store is one single store. An hour online, massive. So the reliability of systems is extremely crucial. When it comes to, just to add to that as well, and it's not only about providing tools and solutions for our customers, it is also important that we provide the same sort of tool set to make the lives of our co-workers a lot easier as well.
Yep.
Because there are many times that a customer walks in the store and they have more information at hand compared to our own co-workers. How are we then able to help our customers in that way? So there's a lot of things ongoing, and how can we empower our coworkers to know more. And that is also connected to the customer analytics. We have today about 100 million IKEA family members. I was told this is the biggest loyalty club member that we have in the world. Still, we have not managed to utilize this information that we have to help our customers make better product choices, make their lives much better. So we have ongoing programs right now. We're still in the beginning of this program to implement a fully integrated CRM solution end to end.
Yeah, I think as we engage with all of you and lots of customers, you've collected a ton of data, but how do you translate that data into insight in real time and be able to get it to the people that need to make decisions? So it sounds like you guys are on that journey and starting to really see some fruits from that.
Yep.
Excellent. All right, so Alex, let's stay with you. So what are the results so far? I mean, how have you been able to enhance the customer experience leveraging digital?
I think if I take the multi-channel program that we have started so far, we roll out a new front-end web solution in UK.
Yep.
We roll out the new back-end sales order management system. And before we did that, it took about 20 days for customers to receive goods when they have ordered online. With the new system, it takes roughly 5 days. So that is a massive reduction in lead time. And I think we have gotten really positive feedback that customers are really happy with this.
Yeah.
At the same time, when it comes to delivery services, typically you get a time slot from 8 to 6 p.m. Who is available in that kind of time? And we're trying to be more accurate in the prediction of the delivery times as such. So we have gotten a lot of very positive response from our customers regarding that. Then when it comes to online experience as such, with the new website, we also have been told that it's a lot more intuitive, it's more friendly, it's more inspiring. And we are working with, again, customers, co-creating with customers, because our customers actually have a lot of product knowledge. They have great ideas to create a lot of solution, and we're trying to share that with the greater group of people as well. So really good results so far.
I love the co-creation with customers. I mean, I think that's the power of digital transformation, right? Being able to use that data and then leverage and tap into some of the co-creation efforts. Ian, so systems that surprise us with insights, really allow us to create better business processes, better products, better customer interactions, and really generates new business models. And what are the outcomes that have surprised you the most? So what are you seeing there?
So some of the outcomes that I was completely blindsided to were really the customer feedback in a level of granularity that I had not imagined. Maybe for you it's co-creation. For us, we don't necessarily have consumers engaged in our products, but there is a very detailed feedback coming from somebody maintaining a manufacturing shop floor. So every floor is completely different. Every plant is unique. Yes. They all come with their own sets of challenges as they have grown like organisms over a long period of time. And so as we go in and look at, do we retrofit certain machinery? Do we collect more data because we're after preventive maintenance, for instance? And as we go in there, we realize, we start solving problem number 1. We discover problem 2 to 16 as well, and we start gathering data on those, and then reprioritization will happen in the course of a implementation project, so that the customer would say, actually, we believe we can get more value from our investment by solving something else first. So perhaps getting them more flexibility in their production line turns out to be more important than getting autonomous vehicles in there and loading and unloading them using a robot may suddenly become more important than making sure that one cell stays up all the time. So we discover a lot going into the project and step by step working our way through. So at least I haven't seen a cookie cutter solution yet. It's very much a dialogue. It's very much understanding and appreciating the insights from the teams that have maintained those plans for long periods of time, and working with them, engaging with them, and learning from them as well.
And there's going to be an exciting announcement later today where we're talking about Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and ABB kind of extending and taking things to the next level, right, in terms of providing some of this digital transformation, and I think some really cool use cases there. So Kate, as you remove the barriers from your artists, what are the outcomes that you're seeing? How is that unleashing creativity and new innovation?
It's interesting. So DreamWorks Animation's been around for about 20 years. And I mentioned earlier that we sort of view transformation as a lifestyle. Well, that's because when we first started the business, we were doing hand-drawn animation. And then just a couple of years in, we recognized that we really needed to move to computer-generated animation, that's where the industry was headed. So that was one transformation. Then we had to move to a place where we were simply more productive, that we couldn't just release one movie every 3 years. We needed to be able to release 2 or 3 movies in 1 year. So this journey that you go on to sort of reinvent yourself is consistent right up until about 18 months ago, when it completely changed again in the biggest way that it had ever happened for us, because we were acquired. Now, I'm sure many of you out there have gone through mergers and acquisitions, but since I've worked at DreamWorks for 20 years, this was the first for me. I'd never gone through this before. We were acquired by Comcast NBC Universal, this massive, massive company, because they truly loved the content that we were creating. And they came in and they said, "We love your content. We think this is amazing. We want more. We want more, and we'd like you to do it faster. And of course, you should keep making it better each and every time." It's like, okay, so you want more, better, faster? Yes, please, and go. And so, and they wanted it in sort of specific ways. One of the things that they really valued in acquiring DreamWorks was that we view ourselves as a hub of innovation. And so they decided to institute a shorts program. Now, we had always done innovation of trying out new characters or new types of technologies, but always just internal. They actually want to show the world what we're doing. So they wanted us to institute a shorts program that we would actually then go and release shorts into the world. Well, shorts are inherently, by their nature, not strategically planned. They're by their nature investigatory and unplanned, and so, and also on the cutting edge of technology. So we suddenly were in a position, alongside all of our feature films and all of our television productions, where we needed to have an infrastructure and an architecture that could be so spontaneous and so quick in responsiveness to the artists and the filmmakers' ideas on these shorts that we didn't actually have to plan for it, which is incredibly tricky. So one of the ways in which we've solved this is we partnered with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise on Synergy.
Yes.
Because historically, our feature films take 4 years to make.
4.
4. Now, the hard part about that is that it takes 4 years to make. The good side of that is that you actually have lead time in understanding how you're going to provision them, and we had a lot of history. We had 20 years of knowledge. With things like the television and the shorts program, we didn't have that luxury. Yep. And so we could no longer go through the standard methodologies of getting the technology up and running for the shorts. So last spring, we did a POC around Synergy in order to take use of the really fast provisioning of high-end compute power. And it was amazingly successful. In fact, we just completed an installation of 25 additional Synergy frames that's basically doubling the size of our render farm and allowing us to bring in a brand new MCRT renderer for our next feature film, How to Train Your Dragon 3. But that's all great, and that's all creative. Far more important than all of that, it has taken provisioning for us from something that used to take 3 weeks on the first time we tried it through Synergy down to 5 hours. And we haven't even optimized the 5 hours yet.
3 weeks to 5 hours.
3 weeks to 5 hours. Our engineering team thinks that they can take that 5 hours down to less than 2 with just a couple of tweaks, because we've only done it one time right now. Think of what our engineering team can do alongside the productions now in that 2 weeks and 6 days and 19 hours that they have left, because they're not doing all the provisioning work. That's the stuff that gets us excited.
Significant competitive advantage driven by digital transformation and technology, right?
Absolutely.
So, Anthony, what are some of the outcomes that Nokia and your content providers have achieved so far?
So I think for us, the biggest shift we've seen is being able to improve the payback period. So we've seen payback now for deploying your own private video distribution system, so what we call our Velocix content delivery network. We've seen payback times fall from 18 months down to less than a year because of that flexible approach of the fact you don't have to overbuild at the beginning. So your investment being closer to your returns allows you to improve that payback period, and that's really made a significant difference. It's also for us opened up significant new markets, because today, as I mentioned earlier, with people going more and more looking for direct-to-consumer offerings for content providers trying to reach out to the market, they're people who don't have traditional networks. They don't own a last-mile network as I would think about it today. So the flexible capacity offering actually allows us to go and approach those kind of operators with a very flexible service model that fits with how they're used to buying services. Whereas traditionally, they might rely on a shared service solution that has them and many other people using it. We can actually offer them now their own private delivery infrastructure, so they can actually put themselves in charge of that quality of experience, which is so key for their content. So actually, the flexible capacity approach has allowed us to go and really open up that segment and enable these providers to go and address consumers, whereas today they don't really do that with control. And without that control, you can't guarantee experience. And the one thing you don't want, as I said earlier, you don't want is a bad video experience. If you have a breakup in your picture, it stops, or it's buffering, you're not going to go back, right? That's something that we've all experienced the personal frustration of. Yeah. And what we need to do is enable those operators to do it. And the flex capacity gives them that power, gives them that control, and it allows them to ensure everybody here has that fantastic experience. And that's really at the heart of this. So for us, that new segment addition, that ability to reduce the payback really allows us to transform our engagement with many providers across the world.
And gives you the ability to pay for what they're using too, right? So you have that flexibility. So some great insights here. Now what I'd like to do is transition here and take some questions from the audience. I'm sure that you guys have heard from some of the pretty amazing innovation and journeys that the panelists have been on. What questions do you have for them, or what are some of the parallels that you're seeing as you've gone on your digital transformation journey? So please, let's go ahead and open it up for some questions.
Thank you for a very interesting speech. The question is related to more the process management. Hello. The question is related more to process management of the change of transformation and then the organization change, because the dynamics are very, very different. Thank you.
Excellent question. Kate, maybe do you want to start?
That is such an outstanding question, because the reality that we've seen at DreamWorks Animation is that the social changes, the changes around our artists' workflows, and the productivity and pipeline processes have been actually far more challenging for us to understand and get our hands around than the technological implementations in order to support them. One of the things that we instituted 6 or 7 years ago when we went through one of the major transformations in our tool set to take advantage of scalable multi-core computing is that the first instinct was to go architect it. We had to stop ourselves. We had to slow down. We actually embedded our engineers into the production posts. So we moved our engineers out of the building that housed all of IT, and we actually sat them alongside the artists within production in order to understand their workflows before we started architecting. That was critical, because one of the things that we realized is that our artists had lost track of things that drove them crazy and that they were waiting for. We all get used to our workflows, right? We do things a certain way. We don't realize that we're waiting any longer because we're so used to it.
Yes.
We had to actually sit next to the artists with the engineers watching them, and the engineers going, does it always take that long to load? Does it always take that long to save? Does it always take that long to access those particular files? And the artist was like, oh yeah, usually I go grab a cup of coffee right now. That's how we figured out where to target the technological innovation. So we actually had to start with process, which was against our nature. We wanted to start with technology because that was our strong suit. But your question is perfectly poised, because I think that as companies move through a digital transformation, it's almost a misnomer, because you put that word digital first, and it's a business transformation that can be significantly accelerated through the embracing of digital innovations.
Like,
Do you guys want to add
I would
anything?
like to add to that. So one thing that we realize as well, we're an engineering company, not just the IT department. Everybody's an engineer. Our HR sometimes are engineers. And so, of course, then solutioning is a number one priority in life. So off we go, we find, we develop a new widget, a new way of doing things. And it really, in times when it's super simple to put together an application and launch it into the world, is creating confusion. And it's giving us all the wrong kind of disruption. So what we're starting to practice now is a human-centered design approach that others would have advocated a long time ago. It took me a while to understand how to employ that in a distributed workforce and find a new way of engaging with the problem that we're trying to solve. It's a person who articulates the problem. It's a person who's trying to pick material out of the shelves. It's a person moving the material from the warehouse to the production line. And if we just go in solution, well, we've got a picker and an autonomously guided vehicle and a robot that unloads it and we're done. Well, chances are we're back to where I started my career 25 years ago in logistics, where we had self-guided carts on a rail system, and they had a pegboard, and with pegs we would indicate where it would go. To this day, we don't know where the carts ended up. They were lost. So somebody had fun playing around with the pegs. The same thing will happen again with the AGVs. So the night shift will sit on them, drive around, I don't know what. I'm sure things will go wrong. So by understanding what are we trying to achieve, I understand the business context, but what's the human element? How are you going to use this? How is this important for you as the person handling the materials? That is, for us, a bit of an epiphany in working together with our customers, with our colleagues on the shop floors as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen as we engage with a lot of customers is around digital. It starts with, I want to deliver a better experience. Technology plays a role in that, but it's process, it's organizational structure, it's business model innovation. A lot of those are the things that really enable a successful digital transformation. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else.
I can share a little bit. So looking at processes as such, when it comes to rolling out new things, typically from an operations perspective, we tend to be a little bit more risk averse. Has this been tested? Has it been tested 20 times before you come into production environment? And I think it's to change that risk appetite and look at what does it really mean. What is the risk level? What kind of business impact does it have? And not coming from a technology standpoint. And also to move as much of the early testing as much as possible. And when we realize that, that helps create a much better quality in applications and in much shorter time. And of course, there's a lot of automation that we have also implemented as well. Because if we follow the traditional process, there's a lot of handover between teams and everything.
Yes.
And it's only automation that can totally eliminate this kind of handovers and improving quality at the same time. Then speaking of innovation, I mean, being IKEA, we should be quite an innovative company. We are known for design and really attractive products. And innovation happens everywhere. I mean, it's really a very creative company. So it is a bit of a challenge to find out, okay, what each of the different business units are doing and how can we support in the best way without killing that innovation culture that we have. At the same time, we don't want to have a situation whereby all the different units are doing the same thing and it's a waste of time and resources. So it's a blend of how do we keep things a little bit more centralized, have an overview, but enabling innovation on every single business unit. What we have done is we've created an incubation unit where we're able to quickly validate and create minimum viable products to see, does the idea work? If it does, let's move on to the next stage. And if it fails, good, let's learn from it and fail more often.
Yes. Excellent. Other questions? Let's take another question from the audience. We have a question back here.
During your transformation, digital transformation you've done, looking back, what would you do differently?
Great question.
So I think thanks for that question. So I think for us, I think it's about challenging ourselves early, to be honest with you. I think one of the things that it's very easy to do in these transformation projects is not challenge yourself enough. You know, like we've talked about some of the examples here, it's about questioning your fundamental starting points that you're used to saying, well, we just start this project from an architecture or a technology problem. And I think for us, it's always about questioning yourself as early as possible, going, did I start with the right first principle? And I think that we're so used to, you know, I talk from our perspective, we're used to selling boxes, we're used to selling software solutions, and it's about going back and starting again, saying, well, actually, what's the right approach for solving the challenge our customers think? Let's not start thinking about that technology, let's make sure we start thinking about the business proposition and how we can enable that quality experience I talked about. So it's questioning the start point and resetting the baseline from where you begin.
Excellent. Anybody want to add anything?
I would strongly advocate for starting off with a strategic dialogue of why are we doing this, and could we please have engineering, HR, finance, the business units, everybody at the table when we talk about the transformation that we're trying to institute. Typically, it involves the whole company, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's not one business unit can go off and transform itself. It requires everybody, all the functions, the supporting functions, to be on board as well. And I guess one learning that I've taken away from the past 2 years is we need to get together and have that conversation. We don't need to work out every detail together, but we do need to align on some basic principles of why we're engaging in this and how are we going to prioritize enabling the transformation. I think that's one thing that I would have liked to spend more time on.
Excellent. All right, let's take another question. We've had a couple of excellent questions here. So who has another question? Okay, while you guys are thinking about it, I do have one thing I just wanted to tee up here, maybe kind of in the vein of some of the questions that we have heard here. Just maybe share your candid thoughts on, you know, what advice would you have for your peers that are embarking on their digital transformation journey? Best practices, learnings, we've shared a little bit of that, but maybe go a little deeper. You know, what worked, what didn't work? And I think, you know, when you're on a journey, especially in a new area like this, there's always going to be things that don't work. You know, what did you learn from that, and how might we help educate or extend that to the audience here? So maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So I think for me the focus is working very strongly and very closely with your partners. So I think the one thing we're very good at focusing on our own innovation and own skills. The question is really bringing in that wider group of people to start questioning the approach you're doing and make sure that innovation is not just coming from inside your own company and the people you work with on a regular basis and your customers, but bringing your partners to that discussion. Because I think what we found is, as part of our discussions with the HPE team, the fact that by challenging all of us to innovate, actually we came up with a far better solution. So we started off with the flexible capacity approach that we came up with, but actually we evolved that. We actually came up with our own version of that to make it work for the customer base we were talking about. And so for me, it's about focusing on innovation that you get together as a team with everybody on board. That's what enables you to really achieve success in these transformation projects, because everybody's different perspective is so critical when you're taking on these challenges, because it's every single contribution, us from a software and knowledge of the industry, HPE teams from the products and the services approach. It's really about putting all those skills together to evaluate it. And I think you miss out if you just focus on your own teams, your own innovation. There's so much advantage we have from a different perspective that if you don't bring that in early and you don't challenge yourself as a wider team, then you miss out on that. And that togetherness, to me, is really what drives the creativity to create these new successful approaches.
Excellent. Alex.
For us, I think it's important that we have a common, clear strategy and picture anchored at the very top of the organization. So we have sponsorship from the CEO and group management about the entire digital transformation journey, because it is not about the IT transformation. The entire process and the way we work, everything needs to change. So I was just discussing today on the way here that, for instance, as simple as packaging, for example, when we want to deliver goods in the multi-channel journey as such. We actually went all the way back to the design process. How do we package things? Do we need to package things in a different way so that it can be shipped in a much easier fashion?
Yeah.
So it's the entire journey. And I think something that's very strong about IKEA is that it is a lot about people. It doesn't matter what we do. Digital transformation also requires a lot on how do we constantly involve the greater community, our co-workers, prepare our co-workers for the next challenges, build up new competence as such. We need everyone to be on that journey. So that's what we do at IKEA.
And you guys are using Point Next and storage as well, right?
Yes.
So
that is a really good example. So to be able to engage our own co-workers in the more strategic initiatives, we have used Point Next and also flex capacity services for the storage, so that the day-to-day mundane commodity type of services, we can buy them from professional services and utilize the core competence of our co-workers where we have the business knowledge and also the IT knowledge to be driving projects and participating projects where we can really make a bigger difference.
excellent. So Kate, you guys are in a pretty dynamic environment, and I know that you've really gone on a pretty aggressive journey. Just share some insights with the audience and what you've learned.
So I think that there's a couple of things, particularly in the last few years, that have become very apparent to us. One is we need, as much as we've talked today about enabling the creative, enabling our artists, enabling our film producers, we also need to enable our engineers. The reality is that the company turns to our technology organization to enable this vast ambition.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, our engineers can't do that. We can't put them in a yes position without actually listening to what they believe is where we need to be 4 or 5 years from now. So one of the insights that we've learned is that we are constantly working with the leadership of the business to appreciate and understand not just what the productions want to do, not just what our end business wants to do, but where our engineering minds think we need to head. Because the fact of the matter is, the future is coming faster every single day.
Yes.
And we really do need to be future-proofed as much as we possibly can be. The other way that we've gone about it, sort of as Alex says, is that for the first time ever in the last couple of years, we've started reaching out to the Point Next service team. DreamWorks Animation has a history of world-class engineering, but to go along with that world-class engineering, we also have a history of going it alone. We built and architected the systems that our productions run on, and through that tribal knowledge of our business, we really didn't reach out for help for many, many years. What we've recognized that's changed in the last, say, 18 months or so is two things. One is that by reaching out and partnering with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise's Point Next organization, we don't need to change what we're doing, but we can accelerate it.
Right.
We can get to where we want to get faster. And I got to say, on Hewlett-Packard Enterprise's behalf, that's really come about because of the caliber of people that you've brought into the organization. Our expectation levels, our bar is super high. And if they can't come in and actually accelerate what we're already doing, it's not really valuable to us. But that's what we've seen play out in the last 18 months, and it has made all the difference.
Yeah, I think one of the key things about our Point Next services organization is we have hundreds of thousands of engagements, and we're able to bring those insights and those learnings to almost any different use case, any different industry, to help you go on your journey, right? And to bring that insight and learning and to de-risk it, because we understand what works and what hasn't worked in certain situations, and we're able to bring that expertise forward. So Ian.
We've spoken a little bit about setting the strategic direction of what are we after? Are we after safety? Are we customer engagement? Are we looking at for profitability? And once we've set that stage, I like taking it down to the end user, the person who needs to make it happen. And only at that point do I understand a full picture of the problem we're trying to solve. And with that understanding of the problem, we start to feel our way into the various solutions out there in the market. We're 140,000 people, and we like to think we're pretty smart. There's only so much you can cover with your own crew, however. And if you think about all the machines in the world and all the possible software that you could use and the permutations of connecting them, it's mind-boggling of the complexity that we see in every plant. And so for us, engaging with partners who have solved particular problems already, where we don't have to reinvent it, where we can agree on standards, on protocols, on data models, on how we work together and plug those things together, not quite Lego style, but we're trying to get there, where we'd say we'd use some of HPE's equipment of edge devices, we would use our robots, we would use somebody else's CNC machines, and they all talk to each other. I think that is where it's coming from these strong partnerships and joint engineering solutions.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and wrap up the panel here. And I just want to say that on behalf of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, we are absolutely thrilled to be able to partner with 4 great companies, and thank you so much for the partnership. And obviously we're partnering and working with many of you in the audience, and would love to tell your story as we go forward as well. And I just want to say thank you to the amazing panel, and let's please give them all a hand of applause for sharing their great story today. Really some, I think, amazing stories, amazing insights, and hopefully you've got some learnings, some knowledge, some use cases that you can apply as you go on your digital transformation journey.